We need it, dude.
Yeah,
dude. If I can't do this and the computer also doesn't do that, then like, what are we even doing it for, dude?
yeah.
Right.
What's the point?
It's the best. Wait,
What's
do
the
I have
point?
mine
We
turned
need
on?
this tech. We need this technology. Watch. Come on, and that's
There we
it.
go.
And that's how you know. And that's how you know.
I forget the other ones. I know
there's a lot of
3
them.
or 4
There's
of
a
them
lot.
at least.
They're really startling if you don't know where they're coming from. It
Yeah.
happened on Zoom with me once. I thought it was on Zoom or something. I couldn't figure out why it was doing it.
It's always unintentional and always pops up when someone's in the middle of doing something that like has nothing to do with what they're trying to activate by doing that.
It's always very fun when somebody's like, kind of like a little bit upset or a little bit frustrated. It's like, I just need you to do that, and it's just like, then that's a thumbs up, and you can't not laugh at it, and they don't like that. You see, I put some notes in the rundown.
I did. I was stunned.
Hey.
Was that because you had to do the pod the other day, and without me?
It's because my document where my notes are usually is my desktop at home, and so I was like, I don't have that document.
Got it.
I'm going right into the rundown.
You should put it in the rundown next time so I can see it.
Well, here you go.
Yeah.
You should
Start new era. Still finding new ways to communicate.
Yeah.
You should change the highlight color too, so it's bold.
Jesus
and
Christ,
sticks
TJ!
out.
Fucking. Why don't
Like-
should I fucking plug in some more lights, too?
Whenever there's a link, Spike highlights it, so it's easy to see. It stands out.
Yeah.
You might have your note get lost in the rundown because there's so much.
Okay. What
Of
should
the
my
same.
color be? Background.
you.
Light gray.
I don't know. I don't know about
Really
that.
light gray.
Really pops.
You should see how psychotic my rundown is for the radio show.
All right, I'll be orange.
And I forgot my iPad the other day, so I couldn't use it. And I was having a meltdown, because I don't have everything where I need to have it. Because
kind
we
of
have
iPad?
so many more sponsorships and stuff that I have to know where they are, and we have just a few segments an hour. So.
Sure.
What kind of
Well,
iPad?
not everything can be as intense as this podcast.
No. What's that?
What kind of iPad?
I don't know.
He's dying. What kind of iPad?
It's the one I got for when we needed to sell stuff at Live Ricky. Whatever it is. I don't know what it is. It's an iPad. But I never had a use for it besides that before. And now I have a use for it.
Nice.
All right. Let's do a podcast. I haven't done a podcast in so long.
It's been a while.
Yeah. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS and brought to you by MortgageCS. Become a MortgageCS Ricky VIP at mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. His cell is 302-864-8643. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged, and Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, believe it or not, the NBA playoffs are still going on. That's right. They can go even past the second round, and they're doing that. But no Knicks and no
Phil's
Jokic.
win.
What's that?
Phil's win.
Yeah. Oh, good. They're up 5-2 last I saw. Is that what? Yeah. The Knicks and Jokic are not in the playoffs, but TJ McConnell is in the conference finals.
Yep.
I will give Mike a list of players I'm terrified the Sixers will end up with this offseason.
Yep. James Wiseman for me.
Oh, that would be terrifying. How will the Sixers fill out the roster if they were to make a big signing? Sham says PG may stay in LA, and JJ Redick looks set to become the newest Lakers head coach.
And Ranger Suarez, 9-0.
Unbelievable. Another 7 innings, 1 run tonight, 10 Ks. Unbelievable.
Best pitcher of all time.
Someone sent an email after 8. Well, I'll wait till that pod actually starts. Kinetic skateboarding. We love Kinetic skateboarding. So I was looking on Kinetic's social today, and I saw if you were a kid ever, if you were a middle schooler, you wore Sambas, Adidas Sambas. And I didn't know that there were skate Adidas Sambas, which are, can you throw them up there, CJ, right now? Look at these. So I asked Ben from Kinetic, what is the difference between the regular Adidas Samba and the skate Samba? And these are more durable and a little more cushioned, but they still look like the classic Samba, which is sick. And there was one up there, CJ, close that for a second. It was called the fucking awesome Adidas Samba. What is that? Look at that. So Sambas are sick. They're good everyday shoes, but the skate ones, a little more cushioned, a little more durable. That's what you find at Kinetic, stuff that you didn't even know it existed, like these. You're not going to find anywhere else, from Adidas to Vans to Nike to Converse to New Balance. Go to kineticskateboarding.com and use code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights To Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy fresh off hosting responsibilities of the Ricky.
Ugh.
That is one Mike Levin.
The worst. The worst. CJ tells me I'm not bad at it. Other people tell me I'm not bad at it. I feel bad at it. I definitely feel, I sweat way more as the host. Definitely like armpit quotient way higher.
Well, it's a different muscle, you know?
Yeah.
So even if you're...
I do it like, once, twice a year or something like that. And so I'm never going to get better at it. And I don't want to. I don't care to.
Yeah, you've said that. Why would you want to? Why would you want
to?
So we're doing this pod as the Celtics play the Pacers. I think they're at halftime, right? Tied at 64. I think it's something like that, right around there. Who knows? Who
Baseball
cares?
Season.
Yeah, but the amazing thing is that TJ McConnell is in the conference finals.
And not just in the conference finals, but like really, really making an impact.
Kicking ass.
Both rounds of the playoffs. Fans clamoring for more minutes for him. He's the best. Did you watch that? Did you watch that JJ clip?
I did not.
Oh, I wish you did. CJ, do you have it? I could send it.
I'm sure you can find it.
I'm gonna send it to him now.
Okay.
Should I do it on Twitter, CJ?
No, or you can send it in the chat.
Well, that's okay. Send it in the chat. I'm gonna do that. It's a really nice JJ clip about TJ that's going to make you feel conflicted, and he's just awesome, dude. He's just awesome. He's been an NBA basketball player for a really long time, and he's contributing at a high level still.
I said it on the air the other day, and Jack and I laughed at me. I was like, he's kind of unguardable right now. Yeah. Like one-on-one, when he gets that 8-foot jumper, I don't know how you can stop it. He looks infuriating to guard, like absolutely infuriating to guard. And it was funny when the Pacers lost, I think it was game 5 or whatever game it was, or game 6. It was game 6, right? I think they lost game 6. Whatever game they lost, I think it was 5. I saw all the Pacers fans yelling because the coach kept him on the bench for the last 8 minutes and didn't have him in the game. Yeah. Why wasn't TJ in the game? Yeah. Jesus Christ. All right, let's play the clip.
TJ won a game for us back then. I believe it was a game 4. Yeah. And I was like, why hasn't he played more? I think that was against the Celtics years ago, and now here he goes.
Well, it was the one. Remember, it was the one where they sat Covington because Ben can't play point guard, and they kept Ben in there. But that was the TJ game, I believe. Yeah. All right.
I want to say one thing about TJ real quick. I want to say one thing. Sometimes you have to get on these podcasts or studio shows and calling games, and you just have to be honest. You have to be honest about players. And, I think we both try to come at this with no agenda. It's also, I think, a point of ours, and I know with Doris, because we talk about this all the time, it's a point of ours that we celebrate players as well. We celebrate the good in the game. And a lot of the good is the greatest players. It's very easy to celebrate those guys. I've said this publicly before, and I want to say this one more time. I'm sitting there courtside, You know, TJ's he's literally, when I say this, I mean it literally. Like, he is like a brother to me. All right. He is one of my closest friends. I love that dude. I think he's one of the most outstanding human beings I've ever met in my life. You brought up the Arizona thing, and it made me think of something. I remember watching his last college game and had started watching Arizona a little bit that year. And I remember him walking off the court, and he was emotional. And I remember thinking, man, that guy's never going to play in the NBA. He's never going to have a game as big as that. I thought, and I've told him this. And I told him it when I first got to Philly. I was like, dude, I'm so happy that you're in the NBA. I think it's incredible. For me to sit there today, this is, I think, our fourth game of the series that I called. For me to sit there today and watch a friend, a brother, just put on that performance in the Garden in a Game 7 to help his team get to the conference finals. Bro, it was he came over to me after the game and said, I love you. I said, I love you. Like, man, I love sports. I really do. His story is awful. His story is incredible, man.
It's sweet.
You know why JJ was so amazed? Because he never knew that a smaller white guard could help a team in the playoffs, as he has never accomplished such a thing. Wow. So
even common ground, he won't even find common ground.
No, not with JJ. And I love TJ. You know I love TJ. I think we feel a kinship with TJ, as he was, our first live pod, and I felt the same way. I didn't think he would make the team. I remember laughing about the idea of him making the Sixers, but
it kicks ass, dude.
It
great. Just kicks ass.
It's great.
I'm so happy for him. I hope he fucking smokes the Celtics.
And lovely to see the Knicks eliminated, not because I dislike the Knicks players themselves, but the fans are just animals, just Axe body spray smelling, too small jersey wearing, celebrate after winning one first round game, fucking idiots. I'm glad that their run is over. And Jokic eliminated at home by a team that I am actually shocked is in the conference finals.
I think this is such a fun playoffs, man. I mean, obviously the Sixers are what they are, and I did have to take some time away after they once again broke our hearts, but it's sick when, like, there's a lot of really good players and a lot of really good teams, and when it is not predictable like this, when you can see it, teams make a run, and people assume that the book is written on the kinds of players that Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns are, and then all of a sudden they beat the defending champions on the road
in a stunning way, by the way, with
down 20, come back, fucking smother them. And just hit tough shots. Cat with a huge putback dunk. Like, it's a little bit confirms my priors, not about the Wolves, but about, like, there are not situations matter. And, like, could Karl-Anthony Towns be the best player in a championship team? Like, no. But does that mean he is a loser who will never play winning basketball? That is clearly not the case, and it's cool to see that narrative change about a guy. It's him specifically. In this case, it's him specifically and Gobert specifically, but, like, that's across the board. That stuff can happen. It's not that many teams can win, and when a team does win because of the right situation, because of a system, because of them buying in on defense, and Anthony Edwards being as good as he was, even though he didn't play well in Game 7, they took the ball out of his hands a ton. It's cool to watch them, and Indiana, a team that other people would think were frauds, they're fucking kick-ass offense, get up and down the court, hit shots, play their ass off on defense, even though they're not, like, a good defensive team. They still play hard as hell. Aaron Nesmith plays hard as hell. Miles Turner protecting the rim. Siakam has added a level of two-way play to their team that they didn't have. Like, it's cool to watch them be like, hey, if they don't win a championship, either of those teams, is it going to be disappointing? I don't think so, but it's cool to see narratives get slain on the road to, like, hey, good basketball, good chemistry, well-coached teams with an identity, watching them deliver is cool. It's very cool.
And by the way, it's most likely none of these teams win championships. Like, by and large. When I was watching, I was actually in Dallas last weekend. I was watching the Thunder Mavericks game with people with Mavericks fans, and we're watching the Thunder, who seem, to everyone's eye, have tons of great young players, tons of draft picks, yada, yada, yada. Still more likely than not that they don't win a championship, just sort of how basketball works. So, you know, as we've talked about, the Sixers getting to a conference championship or a finals or something like that is something to enjoy at the time, you know, the ride of it.
Yes.
But the Timberwolves specifically.
But the ride has to be a ride. It can't be just the beginning of a ride, Daryl. It has to actually, the ride must start. And we must go, we need to go on at least one loop-de-loop that we come out of on the other side.
Yes.
We don't crash on the loop-de-loop.
Also, Knicks fans calling what the Knicks did this year a run. I'm sorry, having been a veteran of several second-round losses.
Of non-runs.
Yeah, that's not a run. Not a run. But the Timberwolves, most interesting, and you're mentioning Towns. Interestingly, coming back from 20 on the road, while Anthony Edwards does not have a good game in Game 7, and I think it also, I think Karl Anthony Towns could have been a loser his entire career. I do think having someone on the team like Edwards empowers him to not be a loser. You see the way that Edwards talks about him in press conferences and sort of it was sort of one of my problems all the time with Butler, in that the energy that Butler provides, like the drive, those sorts of things, can be motivating for other teammates if he chooses to use that energy in that way, the way that I think Anthony Edwards uses that energy for Karl Anthony Towns. Whereas, or you could just berate the guy because he's not like the way that you are, which is not, I think, a productive way. But it also, it just shows how having the right teammates at the right time and the right situation can mean everything, you know, and can be the difference between winning and losing.
It's awesome to watch guys grow, guys get better, guys realize what needs to be done to win at a high level and show that context matters. And maybe this person's not a great number 1 option or even number 2 option, but as a number 3, they were perfect in that role. It is cool to see teams get developed and work. And it was, I mean, I really don't have anything against the Denver players as a team. I root against Michael Porter Jr. I just don't like the guy. Never have. And
by the way, not since draft. When I liked him, I had number 1 on big board. You did not like him.
I've never liked him. Never liked him. And so I did take a small 6 satisfaction watching him have a really bad series. But it's just cool to watch. The defending champions lost in the second round to a team that hasn't made the conference finals in 20 years.
Yeah,
that rips. That being said, since Joel Embiid debuted on my birthday in 2016, 18 teams have made respective conference finals.
Not the Sixers.
11 teams have not, and then one other team is the Sixers, who have also not. I mean, it's a bad list of teams that have not made the conference finals.
It's the Wizards, the Hornets, the Knicks. You know, those are the Eastern
Knicks,
Conference
the
teams.
Magic, the Bulls, the Hawks, the Nets, the Hornets, the Wizards, the Pistons, and the Pelicans, the Kings, the Jazz, the Grizzlies, and did the Spurs do it? I think the Spurs did. I'm now forgetting. Maybe the Spurs are not.
Well, the Spurs definitely did it. The Spurs won a championship.
Not before 2016.
Oh, it's 2016. I didn't realize you were only going back to 2016.
And it's just, and the Hawks did, obviously. Thank you, CJ. Obviously, we remember the Hawks doing that. That's not something I would or should forget. We remember this. It was, it's just, and I talked about this with John Gonzalez on the last podcast. It really sucks that it's happened for so many other teams, that they have gone on a run, whether it's a magical run or a do what you're supposed to do run. The Sixers having never been on any of those, despite having one of the best players in the league all this time.
Kind of a bummer.
It is a massive bummer and a failure on so many people's laps, many iterations of GMs, many parts of ownership, Embiid himself, many coaches, a lot of the star players that have been surrounding Embiid that they were counting on to produce with him, that were never a good fit or were never good enough to be worthy of the money that they spent on them. And that's 18 teams, and the Sixers aren't one of them. And that just sucks. That sucks so bad. That massively sucks. I mean, there's teams that have did it in the early part of Embiid's career and then tanked and then are now back in conference finals. That Embiid still hasn't done it, and that sucks. I will say this will be the first season without Jahlil Okafor or Tobias Harris of Embiid's career.
Hard to believe.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
And it is really like nut-cutting time for Daryl. Don't fuck it up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do not saddle Embiid with another fucking dud for the rest of his prime. If it's post-prime and we're into the hell of that, whatever that looks like, fine. But it's been so corrupted, most of Embiid's like fucking glorious best days, and they just can't. Don't fuck it up, please, God. Fuck. Oh, man.
Yeah. He could fuck it up, but I hope he doesn't. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by MortgageCS. We love MortgageCS. CJ and I saw Ben from MortgageCS the other night. A little charity thing for Broad Street Love, formerly Broad Street Ministry. Love MortgageCS. MortgageCS, local, independent mortgage broker. CS stands for concierge service. Going to be with you every step of the way in the mortgage process. Mortgage broker doesn't give you the money. They go to the banks. They tell you which loans are available. They help you out on which one is best. And independent, super important because you know they're only working for you. No secret deals with any of the banks. It's a crazy time right now. There are more mortgage brokers than ever, more lenders than ever, failing their clients, all different ways they do that. Screwing up pre-approval letters, missing closing deadlines. It can cost you thousands of money in extended lock fees. You can lose earnest money. It sucks, which is why you need somebody on it and concentrating on your shit, not spread too thin. MortgageCS. And you might think right now, well, mortgage rates are high. It's not a good time to buy. Wrong. Homes are going up in value by like 6% year over year. And that appreciation is expected to stay for years. So you buy the house now, the house appreciates, and when rates go down, just refinance with MortgageCS. Buying a house, kind of complicated. Refinancing your house, not complicated at all. Not a bad time to buy a house. Complicated time, that's why you need MortgageCS. They're available for you any second of the day. Remember I told you Ben? Here's his cell phone number, Ben, CEO. He does get these texts. I want you to text him right now. If you're listening live, if you're listening recorded, text him anything, ask him any question, ask him if he knows the Phillies score. We're trying to keep him up on sports all the time. 267-391-7425. 267-391-7425. You will learn, if it's your first time buying a house, that having a mortgage broker who is available for you every day of the week, every minute of the day is super important. Again, Ben's cell phone number, 267-391-7425. If you don't want to text him right now, that's cool. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky, schedule a consultation, learn more about MortgageCS. If you don't believe me, you can believe the hundreds of people who have left 5-star reviews on Google. Once again, mortgagecs.com/Ricky or text Ben at 267-391-7425. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. MortgageCS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky for more information. I wanted to throw some players at you that I have become fearful that that the Sixers may end up with this offseason.
Let's hear it.
So I was talking to a couple of Laker fans who are insanely delusional, by the way, just in general. They're in a very bad place right now, it feels like. I don't know how Alyssa is, but it feels like Lakers fans are in a really weird time. And D'Angelo Russell could be a free agent, I think, if he doesn't pick up his option. It feels like we didn't get the guy we wanted. This guy was available less than we thought we could get him for. Signing for the Sixers, and he fucking sucks, and I'm terrified.
Yeah, not a guy that I think like sucks. I do think he's really good shooter, and it can be optimized as a passer, but just not better as a like isolation enough. Doesn't work on defense enough. Not athletic enough to like get to the balls that you want him to do. I really, especially looking at how limited Cleveland is with those guards and many small guarded guys before, Booker and Beal as an example. Like there's a ton of examples of we have two offensive-minded guards. And even though I like Garland and I like Mitchell, I don't want that to be the future for Maxey playing alongside another ball-dominant guard. I think that really minimizes what he's best at. Not that they can't use another guy that can create a little bit, but I would rather defer to athleticism and physicality and size on the wing than going with another smallish guard that needs the ball in their hands. Even though Maxey can play off ball, and I want to see him play off ball more often, it'd be nice to not have to have so much, dribble drive responsibility on his plate and his plate alone, pretty much. But definitely Russell's not the guy, and I don't think that he's a Darryl guy, and I don't want them to sign him. But this archetype also, even with a better player, I'm a little wary of. Donovan Mitchell being one of those kinds of players.
Andrew Wiggins, terrified.
No.
Yes. I'm terrified, and I'm just worried if one of the main guys is not available. Here's a guy, maybe Darryl gets a pick along with Andrew Wiggins or something to take him. We have all this cap space to take somebody into. He thinks he can flip him and rehab him. Oh, my God, he could play 4 on this team. Andrew Wiggins, terrified.
What's he making?
Oh, like
26.
Yeah.
It's not horrendous.
He sucks.
He's not. He's hasn't been good for a few years now, and people keep dancing around like why
didn't he go to work
play
anymore
for a while.
Yeah.
But in the world of a Kelly Oubre prove it type thing, I could see him being a helpful player the way he was a helpful player before, but certainly not as this guy solves all of our problems type of thing. Although I do think the contract, the way that the cap is going up and the contracts are going up, that is not an albatross type contract, even though I'm not, banging the table asking him to come on the team. I would prefer, of the two guys you've named so far, would prefer Wiggins to Russell.
We've talked about him enough, but Brandon Ingram, I just don't buy it. I think he is destined to score 24 points a game on a team that never wins anything. He feels like, I know he's not Tobias, but he feels too much like Tobias. And again, feels like a we got to do something guy, and he'll be available. And I'm terrified of Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, low on my list. I think the fact that he has produced at obviously such a higher level than Tobias has his whole career. Like he's better at pretty much everything on a basketball court than Tobias is. But shares similar weaknesses of not a catch and shoot guy, not a great defender, not such a quick decision maker, settles a lot. I just generally tend to not like tough shot makers when such a high percentage of their shots are difficult because they can't create separation regularly. And he's not an elite shooter. So much mid-range for a guy that's like not an elite shooter is just not for me. But he's way better than Tobias. I just worried like what the price tag is going to be for a guy like that. But I do think like he's a better creator, a secondary creator than he gets maybe credit for. He at least is big and long, and he's young. I don't love it. I could convince. Brandon Ingram is could convince myself.
Here's the problem.
To be okay with it.
I'm not young. I don't have time for this.
That's fair.
Yeah. Next, I know you're going to say it's impossible, but James Harden.
I don't think it's impossible. I think it would be insane, but I don't think it's impossible.
It would be horrible.
It would be the most.
It would be the worst
most
podcast
Darryl
I've
thing
ever
that could
done.
ever happen.
Yes.
It would be certainly the most Darryl we have on some sort of one, multiple timeline situation. This is the one timeline that is like, well, if you turn the sliders up to most Darryl, here's the one that it spits out. It's fucking, they re-signed James Harden or trade for whatever.
Can you imagine seeing that tweet and clicking on the Shams thing to make, hey, this must be a fake Shams. Maybe it's 5 Hams Sarania. Like,
I'd be begging for 5 Hams, man. I'd be fucking pleading for 5 Hams. And like Clippers fans are like, he did pretty good. Like, well, he wasn't the problem. He wasn't it. But just Jesus Christ, if the Sixers say that, here's the solution to go back to the guy that we had. That's it. We got him. Here it is. Daryl's like, we believe that there's unfinished business. I'm just gonna fucking lose it, man. I will lose it. I will absolutely lose it. God, I am praying at the, I don't think it's gonna happen. I do think the Clippers are gonna re-sign him. I'm praying at the altar of James Harden's like spite to actually and his integrity to believe that Daryl is a liar and he will never play for him again. Never talk to him again. That's what I have to hope. That's what we have to hope for.
By the way,
because I think Daryl would fucking do it, man. I really do think he would do it.
He would certainly do it.
Oh
But
my
by the way,
God.
just to spite us,
it's admirably inhuman in a bunch of ways. But like, be a person, Daryl. Be a goddamn person for once. Have a feeling.
By the way, you had mentioned on the last pod we did how that Clippers podcast or whatever was saying how much they hated James Harden, but also how much they hated Paul George. And how James Harden was fine. The fact that they thought James Harden was fine leads me not to trust their opinion on Paul George. You know, it took us a minute to understand what James Harden was.
It takes some time. I mean, you get excited about the things that they can do, and then we did this with like Jalen McDaniel. You get excited about a new thing. Like, look at this exciting person. Oh, he's catching lobs, or in Harden's case, he's making these pocket passes. He's making quick passing decisions to get guys open. Guys are getting many open shots on it. And then you see, and he's competing defensively one-on-one. Like, he really is competing and trying. He's got quick hands down there. He's strong down there. But then, man, like, the weaknesses come out. The weaknesses come out at night. And you see him and you feel him and you know him and you're just like, it's not going to happen. He's not going to do it.
No.
He is absolutely not going to do it. And as much as I was saying, like, look at Karl Towns, like changing the narrative. I just don't.
Not James Harden.
At this point, James Harden at his age would not be able to do it. No.
And finally, it's not going to happen, but the Sixers signing LeBron would leave me unable to cheer for the Sixers.
Come on.
I would not be able to talk myself into it. I would do the podcast. I would not cheer against them.
Come on.
I would hate it.
Malvern LeBron?
It. What's that?
Malvern LeBron?
Even though his kids will be out of high school completely by then, I think, right? Isn't it? Or his other son is
I don't know.
junior?
I don't know about his younger kids. I don't know. But man, I mean, LeBron choosing to come to Philadelphia would be sick. And
everything after that would be terrible.
I mean, he gets to like just take it easy for a while. Maxey do everything. He loves Maxey, obviously.
Yeah.
He shows up in the playoffs. It's still at his age, man. This many years into it. Obviously, as a number one option, lacking. The Lakers are, unless something drastic happens, this core is not gonna go anywhere really.
Yeah.
But in between Maxey and Embiid, with Maxey and Embiid doing most of it, and LeBron just having to do sometimes stuff, they still can't stop him, dude. He's still unstoppable. Going to the basket, around the basket. He's still LeBron James, dude.
Yeah, playing LeBron. He's such LeBron that he has Anthony Davis on their team, and they've been in the playoffs two consecutive years.
You know I'm not an Anthony Davis guy.
Yeah.
I would if LeBron opts out and just signs into the cap space here for 2 years, whatever, I'm in. Count me in.
Oh.
Count me big in.
Would be a terrible moment for me.
Let's go.
Would be really tough for me.
LeBron takes out Michael in Philadelphia with the run, lifts Joel on his back, or Maxey lifts them both on his back. I don't care. Anything. Just being a part of the best player of all time.
No.
Winning a title, bringing a title to Philadelphia, bringing this podcast to championship, bringing
Jordan's,
this goddamn podcast to championship.
Michael Jordan's almost 60. The best player of all time is certainly not signing with the Sixers.
He keeps doing it, dude. It's the fact that he's this good this many years into his career and
he's not that good.
Different teams, unbelievable. I would love it. I would love it. Yeah, I wouldn't be annoyed by some things for sure. Like, I'm not saying it would be perfect. I would be annoyed by how much standing around that there is when he's not like engaged. But
it makes them waste a draft pick on his son when
I don't necessarily think he would. But if LeBron did come here, I would be fine. I think Bronny is going to be an NBA player. I think he's going to be fine. He shouldn't have come out this year. obviously except for like playing with his dad part of the thing, but like he had a heart attack. He was rusty as hell. Like it's a tough situation, but he is coming out of high school. He was an NBA player, and I think he will be a fine NBA role player if he continues on the pace that he was on.
He was playing 12 minutes a game for USC. Why?
Because he had a heart attack.
They should have been playing. Don't you think it's a little weird that he played this year after the heart attack? Most guys take a year off.
I don't know. I don't know how many other people are having heart attacks in college
it's a little
basketball.
Little weird.
I don't know what you're implying.
I'm implying that it's a little weird that he came back and played this year.
I think he wanted to play. I think he knew he was going pro, and he didn't want to like waste his college career with nothing. But it was definitely a disappointment. That SC team was a pretty much a nightmare. Even though Isaiah Collier is going to be a lottery pick, and he's a good player too. Yeah, I mean, certainly if Bronny James was named like Dave Jones, he would not be coming out of the draft, even though it's a bad draft year, like no high level wise. I'm interested to see where he goes. But I do think package wise, I think he is going to be an NBA player.
Why? He's like 6 feet tall, and he's like
6'3", 6'4".
He measured at 6'1" in the combine.
He's like D'Anthony Melton style.
Measured 6'1"
He's
at the
that
combine.
kind of player.
6'1" at the combine.
I think he is a combo guard role player type of player that is a smart basketball player that has to work on his jumper and all that stuff that those kinds of young players do. He shouldn't be coming out this year if things were in a vacuum just talent wise and what happened last year. But I like those kinds of players. I like connector role player, defensive minded types. It's weird that he's LeBron's kid being that kind of player, but that's my archetype. I love D'Anthony Melton. It's my kind of guy.
Okay. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. You may ask, how do you spell Ksebe? Ksebe. Ksebe. Now, I'm spending a week down in Lewis, Delaware this summer because I love Lewis, Delaware. I love the Delaware beaches, but I'm spending an exorbitant amount to spend 1 week down the shore because I'm fucking schnook, and I didn't go to Ksebe and actually just buy a shore house down in Delaware and then rent it out most of the summer. That way I have it for a couple of weeks and it appreciates and I'm not paying very much in property taxes. And I know the best fucking realtor to get you a house at the Delaware beaches. That is Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. 302-864-8643. 302-864-8643. That is a cell. You can call him or text him or email him, adam@processrealtor.com. The Ksebe team, it's a full team of realtors based out of Long and Foster and Bethany Beach. They've all of Delaware covered. Can answer all your questions about it, about buying a house in Delaware beaches. The best thing about it compared to Jersey, way lower property taxes, way lower. That's whether you're in Rehoboth or Bethany or Lewis or Dewey or any of those shore towns. Can also hook you up in Maryland too. So Ocean City, Maryland, right over the bridge there, very close to Delaware. 302-864-8643. I mentioned I was talking about MortgageCS, that it's a hard time to buy a home because there's not a lot of houses out there. You need a great mortgage broker. You also need a great realtor, and Adam Ksebe is that realtor. He can take care of you in Delaware. He can take care of you in Maryland. Now, if you need to buy a home, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, any other state, he cannot do it for you, but he can be your resource. You don't have a realtor? Reach out to Ksebe. He will find out what you need, where you need it, help sell a house, and he will interview realtors and find you yours. 302-864-8643, Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. So there have been some rumors about Paul George recently, one that the Knicks could be interested. And then Shams was talking about Paul George and said the following.
Shams, the Lakers coaching situation.
Yeah, I'm told LeBron James is not involved in the Lakers head coaching search. I've reported on it last week. JJ Redick, James Borrego, Sam Cassell, the lead initial targets. But LeBron James made it clear this is the organization's decision. He's had no conversations with the Lakers about JJ Redick, his podcast partner. He's had no conversation with JJ about that position as well. I did speak to Rich Paul this morning.
That seems like the wrong clip.
That was the wrong clip.
Did I send you the wrong clip?
Yeah, I'm fixing it now.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, we could talk about the JJ thing.
Yeah, well, let's talk about JJ now. That
people just say whatever, man.
yeah, I mean,
He has not talked to him.
wait, so
Imagine not talking to someone that you do a podcast. Imagine if I was like, hey, I'm thinking about dating your dad, Spike, but I'm not gonna run it by. Like that's as close as it would be. Like it is unbelievable to not say
it's like
that at all.
It's the Jerry Colangelo, Brian Colangelo thing. It's
Yes,
like
it is really. Thank you for pointing that out. It is 100% that. They have nothing to do with it. LeBron doesn't even know who he is.
So can I tell you the Galaxy?
He's zero dark LeBron-y right now. How could he know that JJ is even considered for the job? He wouldn't know. Who would tell him that?
They've only recorded 27 podcasts. It's never come up. It has never come up.
No.
Can I tell you the Galaxy brain
Unrelated.
Laker fan theory that was spouted to me this weekend? That LeBron actually hasn't talked to JJ, but Rob Pelinka is so obsessed with job security that he is going to hire a coach that he believes will be perceived as what LeBron wants. So if it goes wrong, it will be pinned on LeBron and not Rob Pelinka.
Interesting. Certainly not the. Wouldn't be the stuff of a well-run organization.
Them hiring JJ Redick is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Not, by the way, because I don't think JJ Redick is like potentially capable of being a fine coach. Of course he could. But the fact that he is JJ Redick's it would be like if I went to WIP and I was like, hey, I have an idea for a new program director. Like
Me,
Mike. Yeah.
Fly my ass in.
Yeah.
I'll
Has he
press
ever
the
been
buttons.
a program director?
I know what it is. I know what to do.
Yeah.
It's man with owners, man. Like they just so many of them are so stupid, and they just go with not saying that the Lakers owners are stupid or more stupid than any other ones, but like so many people just go like, oh, the guy that's on the broadcast, like, no, Doc Rivers, he's the guy that's on the broadcast. Oh, JJ Redick, the guy that's on the broadcast, he's right there. Like, just bring him in there. He says kind of smart things. He seems to know what's going on. He seems
High
to stay
basketball
awake.
IQ.
It's just so bizarre. It's so bizarre. There's so many people that are qualified for head coaching jobs, and to just go, we're going right to JJ. Never been a head coach before.
Team needs to win, by the way, like a championship
Right
this year.
now, growing
Yeah.
pains. Absolutely not. I mean, Steve Nash is the same thing. Like,
By the way, won't be weird in the locker room at all if they hire LeBron's podcast partner.
yeah. I mean, obviously, assistant coach Tommy. That'll be fun to see. Tommy running drills. Tommy on the court. Tommy taking pictures. He's got to do it. That comes with its package deal. That's just regular agent stuff. Agent's going to get him in there. So bizarre, so weird. Not that I think that, again, like I do think JJ could be a fine head coach, and if he went and was somebody's Sam Cassell for a year or two, like he obviously, he was an NBA player for a really long time. That is not to say that he can't be a coach, but it's just he's just on a broadcast. He has a podcast with LeBron. Like that's the end of the qualifications.
Yeah.
He's no more qualified than dozens of assistant coaches that have been doing the job, or dozens of college coaches that have been doing the job. Like, it's just so bizarre to be like, this guy's talking I hear him out of my TV. That one, higher. Right there. There he is.
Can you imagine LeBron in the locker room being like, yo, they hired JJ Redick? Wow. I had no idea.
Totally didn't know. I don't even have his number. But it's a podcast where I have a producer that sets us up together. I just show up. The wine shows up. JJ shows up. I just start talking. We don't know each other very well.
Yeah. We record in different rooms. They put it together.
Well, we clink the glasses of the wine, and then we walk into other rooms to record it.
So here
so weird, man. So weird.
He's going to get hired.
It's so much money to just be thrown around being like, and this happens in, I'm sure, many other businesses that I don't understand, but so much money to throw around for just like, the guy I've heard of.
I think it happens in a lot of businesses, actually.
I do.
It happens in
really
mine. Yeah.
I got a gut feeling, and the gut says it's the guy I've heard of.
Well,
it's never a gut feeling being like, hey, like the second assistant who's been there for like 17 years. No.
they hired me to do this radio show. How many sports radio shows have I led in Philadelphia? None. Zero.
Guy I've heard of.
Zero. They knew me.
Spike Eskin, a guy I've heard of.
Was familiar. He must know. He listens to sports radio. Let's hire him.
There you go.
This is what Sham said about Paul George, though.
The Clippers have a lot of questions. Ty Lue, what's up with his contract extension? They want to extend him, but to my knowledge right now, there hasn't been any progress in those conversations. Paul George's future. He's potentially going to be a free agent this offseason as well. Is he going to be back in LA? That's a question for them as well. I mean, obviously everyone knows, and Lou Williams said on our show today, he's like, Paul George isn't leaving LA. And I think people around the league have had this belief. He's an LA kid. He wants to be here. And I think we'll find out very, very soon. But there's a lot of questions. And I think on that list of questions is Russell Westbrook. He has a player option, I believe, a little over $4 million next season. And so does he opt in? Does he opt out?
Did he have a great season?
So still potentially stays in Los Angeles. Also, the interesting thing about the Knicks being interested, potentially, is that they would have to sign and trade for Paul George, which would get the Clippers something out of it. I do wonder...
Like Anunoby or something.
Well, I don't think it would be Anunoby, but at least like maybe even Randall and a pick or something like that. I think they'd probably sign Anunoby. But...
I don't know that. They'd have to get a lot more than that.
Would you do a sign and trade for Paul George and give up something or no?
No, you wouldn't need to.
Well, you wouldn't need to, but
you would need to.
What if he wanted to?
Well, I don't think he would want to go. I'm only coming to Philadelphia if
you give something.
If you have less assets. I don't think that's gonna. I don't think that'd be the case.
Yeah.
God, Shams makes me so uncomfortable, man.
Yeah.
All those people, all like the newsbreakers, the way they talk about it makes me so uncomfortable.
Well, because they're just obviously lying all the time.
They're just like repiping sort of things that they've been told into ways that they're allowed to say it.
Shams is super young too. I don't even think he's 30.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Everything about him is bizarre. Everything about Windhorst obviously I've found bizarre for a very long time.
Yeah.
But even Woj, the way they talk, I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable watching someone who's like, you are just in the same way that like the commissioner works for all the owners. Like it's like those guys like work for the agents. Like it's like watching them like compute what they're allowed to say at all times. It's so weird.
He doesn't know anything about JJ Redick.
Doesn't know.
Never heard of him.
As far as Paul, I think Paul could definitely stay in LA. I think they could run it back. I think they definitely want to be good for in that stadium next year. They're certainly not going to be, content taking a step back. It's the Kawhi sub max contract. Paul George having never gotten an extension when they could have extended him at any point for the last few months. He didn't get it. The odds to me, it's like I don't think Paul is going to just go, oh, I've been sitting on give me a goddamn max contract and you've said no. And now that we've flamed out, Paul's going to go like, okay, I'll take the shitty one. It seems like
do you think,
a little bit of an impasse unless the Clippers do decide, okay, this guy who didn't play that great, who, collectively our fans think is a loser, and who is getting older, and this experiment has not worked, we are going to give him more money than the better player in Kawhi, who's obviously hurt all the time. I don't know. It's hard to see our way out of it. I guess somebody's just going to have to, if he stays in LA, someone will have to eat shit a little bit, whether it's Paul George or the Clippers.
Can they, if the years are the same, can they pay him more dollars than we can pay him? I wish I should have looked that up.
I believe it is the same. They can just offer one more year.
I got it.
With more money on that last year.
I wonder if they offered the same amount of years as we offered, I think he probably stays in LA because he wants to be in LA.
But then that's the max contract. And that's the max contract that
it's
Kawhi
not max if they're not giving him the
right.
one more year.
But it's still more than Kawhi got.
Right. I sort of wonder. I sort of feel like we're being used in the Paul George thing a little bit.
Which is fine.
I'm a little worried about.
We're allowed to be used. It's not bad to be used. I would love to dig back into the early days of this podcast and be like the third team in a, hey, we have cap space and we can accept a salary of a guy that they, makes room for something. If that player could help us or be in the rotation, that would be fun. Saw people talking about Tari Eason as a possibility on that. That would be sick. Like, I don't know. Just be around. Be around and be a cap space team. If there's ways to do it. there's so many ways. I mean, you have the Michael Connor article on the rundown.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of good stuff in there of whether it's Paul George to the max. He obviously has his concerns. Trading picks for Mikal Bridges doesn't seem like the Nets want to do that. Jimmy Butler, who knows? I thought the Jerami Grant option was an interesting one.
Yeah, so Mike O'Connor wrote an article on RightsToRickySanchez.com. You can get all of MOC's articles and Andrew Unterberger's articles and Dan Ollinger's articles by just going to RightsToRickySanchez.com, hitting subscribe. They come right to your email box.
Great Ollinger article about Jared McCain and Devin Carter, who's going to be very high on my board. Carter.
Yeah, actually, to be quite honest with you, that was the first Dano article I did not read because I don't care. Thank God for Andrew Unterberger, our editor, so I don't have to read this article about a college player who's never going to be on the Sixers. I don't care.
I think they make the pick.
They'll trade it, though.
I think they make the pick. I think they make the pick and they trade future picks.
You're saying they make the pick, so we got to do a fucking draft night pod, and they're not going to keep them.
We're doing a draft night pod. That's the one podcast I want to do.
I know.
Is the draft night pod.
So the MOC article is called "How Would the Sixers Fill Out the Roster After Landing Any of Their Big Offseason Targets?" and basically goes over the Paul George option, the Mikal Bridges option, the trading 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Jimmy Butler, and then the final option was trading for Jerami Grant. And essentially what he's talking about is how the money that they would have to basically after they would sign Paul George, which would basically be if you end up letting go of Paul Reed, you end up with basically $16 million and then the MLE, which is about $8 million. And he has them, which is great. He is talking about signing George, trading Reed and the 16th and the 42nd pick for Alex Caruso,
which I don't think the Bulls would do that. I think this was a sunnier return of trades that MOC proposed than I would have guessed out of our normally pretty stodgy friend.
Yeah, and also, by the way, talking about splitting $8 million in cap space between DeAnthony Melton and a backup center. Like DeAnthony Melton, it's all going to be because of his health, and I think if he's healthy, it's hard to
That's
imagine.
One that's really hard for me to peg of what he's going to get or where he wants to go or what it's going to be because of the back injury that's hampered him for most of the season. Yeah.
So he basically ends up with a dream roster of Tyrese Maxey, Alex Caruso, Kelly Oubre, Paul George, Joel Embiid, Kyle Lowry, Campaign, D'Anthony Melton, Nick Batum, and Andre Drummond. By the way, I think Nick Batum will retire, but who knows?
I think Nick Batum is not going to. He'll get more than a minimum.
Yes.
He's playing like 34 minutes in this first. I think he's going to get more than the minimum, and he deserves more than the minimum.
And by the way, he could go get the minimum in Los Angeles,
anywhere
where he wants to live. You know, so.
But he liked it here, so hopefully Embiid is doing some convincing and wants to keep him here. And if we can get him at 2 years, $10 million, that's great.
So
12.
If they trade for Mikal Bridges, they wind up.
I think it's so unlikely that the Nets trade Mikal. They've had so many opportunities to trade him for steep packages, and I just do not think that they're going to do it.
I don't think that they're going to trade him. I do think that his value he has become a little overrated.
I don't disagree, but overrated by his own team.
Overrated by, I think, maybe everybody, though, too, because we're talking about trading. People were talking about trading 4 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges.
And they said no to that.
If they were offered that. Who knows?
The conversation is that they were offered it, and they said no to some truly stunning packages. And I just don't think. I think the Mikal train is parked firmly in Brooklyn until he asks for a trade. Basically, it doesn't seem like that's kind of his vibe.
And it does seem like the Knicks there have been a lot of Knicks Mikal Bridges rumors as well.
Of course, the Nova guys, etc.
Trading 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Jimmy Butler, I would not be in favor of that. And by the way,
again, I think that's light. I think MOC is undershooting it.
I don't think so for Butler. Especially if they've soured on him. I don't. Because if you're going to trade for him, you're also going to have to extend him by 2 years, which means you got 4 years at $55 million a year for Jimmy Butler. And by the way, salary-wise, this ends up very similar to the Paul George thing. You just don't have draft picks.
Right.
The Jerami Grant thing is interesting because
he called it an underrated backup plan, which I think is a fair way to describe it.
Well, because there's a part of it that you wonder, and I forget who was wondering this aloud, just who is the next Aaron Gordon, right? Like the person who wants to be one thing on one team,
Sure.
but accepts a different role on another team.
And Jerami Grant was Aaron Gordon before Aaron Gordon in Denver.
Right. The question, though, is that MOC asked very fairly, is Jerami Grant just happy scoring 25 points a game on a shitty team?
Yeah.
And does he want to be a dirty work guy?
It's weird. Signed a big contract in Detroit for the same money that he could have gotten in Denver. Detroit trades him to Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Portland signs him to a big fat contract. He has in Portland had the two best outside shooting seasons of his career, back-to-back 40% from deep on over 5 attempts per game. Shoots well from the line, has really turned himself into a hell of a player from the first couple years in Philly. Like the Sixers drafted him, Hinkie drafted him at 39th overall with KJ McDaniels, who has long not been in the league. And Jerami has turned himself into like he was an energy long athlete that was like raw and rim protecty as a 4, and has turned himself into a really very competent offensive player that can beat you in a bunch of ways. He's gotten to the line more over the last few years. His assist numbers are still relatively low, but they're way better than they were earlier in his career. It's a matter of, like MOC said, like, does he want to play winning basketball? That's a conversation. He's late into his career. He's been irrelevant for 4 seasons on horrendous teams. It's hard to know what he wants, but as a backup option where he goes like, okay, I'm gonna become way more efficient. He's never been a good rebounder, which is kind of weird from a guy that big. Even at Q's, he wasn't a good rebounder, and that would be one of his biggest roles here. Would be like be the big athletic guy that can go get anything. But if he doesn't have that motor in him to be willing to do that, it doesn't necessarily seem like a Daryl player. Because he's that kind of, I think there's more like, he's not this kind. They don't have similar games, but there's a little Julius Randle in him of like, do you do the stuff that you need to do to be a secondary player, and are you good enough at the main stuff to be a number 1 or 2 option? And he's just not. He's good on bad teams, but to what end?
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by LL Pavorsky Jewelers. Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. Over 400 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have purchased engagement rings from LL Pavorsky Jewelers. Look, there's good news and bad news here. The good news is over 400 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have purchased engagement rings from LL Pavorsky Jewelers. The bad news, number 400 has not contacted us about you watching them make love.
Good.
Yeah. Mike did promise that if they requested, he would watch them have sex, and we have not heard from him. It's a real bummer.
Totally
now,
fine.
The good news is that LL is still available to help you get an engagement ring. He's there at 707 Walnut, been there for 36 years. How do you stay in business that long? You treat people the right way. Or you are a front for the mob. But he's not a front for the mob, so he must be treating people the right way. You go into any other jewelry store, they're fucking on you. They buzz you in, because all jewelry stores, they got to buzz you in. And then they're just like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Right on your ass. Pressure, not LL. LL takes his time with you, is gentle, is caring, is loving, has free chocolate, has free water. Look, here's the thing. He doesn't want you just walking in. That's not how he does things. He does everything by appointment. Why does he do it that way? Well, so he can talk to you first, make sure he has everything there for you when you walk in, laid out so he can spend time with you, and make sure that you are getting the right ring for the right price on your terms. That's the guy. We love him. He's the best. The first advertiser on the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. LL, as I said, got to make an appointment. Call him, 215-627-2252. Send him an email, lee@llpavorsky.com. Tweet at him, @llpavorsky. He is a supporter of our charities, Mama T's Community Fridge and Providence Animal Center, LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
How come the Lakers don't hire LeBron's podcast sponsor?
This email comes from Dean O. Dear Spike and Mike, to rightstoRickySanchez@gmail.com. Assuming the Sixers fail in their plan A, a PG, Butler, etc. You've already discussed Ingram, DeRozan. What are their next options? Do they revisit players such as you mentioned, Jerami Grant, Zach LaVine, DeJounte Murray? At the end of the day, are they looking for a third star? So it would be better to have a more complete roster, more role players. If you could only give up one first and absorb Grant at a cap space, for example, then you keep some picks up your sleeve for a potential next move in a more balanced roster. So we just talked about Jerami Grant. Zach LaVine, DeJounte Murray, 2 players we talked about previously. Any interest in either? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
Yeah.
I guess DeJounte maybe more than LaVine. He costs a lot less. He signed for a lot less time. You can convince yourself there on a high-level team there is defense that he can play at a high level. That was his calling card out of Washington and in his first couple of years with the Spurs as he was figuring out how to play NBA basketball on the offensive end. That has kind of gone away as he's played in a pretty pointless Hawks team for the last few years. LaVine just like, man, I don't know. With the injuries and the non-defense, the offense is sick. Like, I will not deny that the offense is not. It's sick. He is an electric offensive player when healthy. But you just watch Maxey and Embiid do so much, and Maxey is just not big, and Embiid is just not going to be mobile for so long. And you just want a guy who's going to be a big athletic wing that can do some stuff, that can go get the goddamn ball. And DeJounte is bigger, he's long for sure, and has some of that toughness. LaVine, obviously athletic, but not equipped on the defensive end. And I don't know. I would if I'm going to go imperfect, I'm going to go imperfect with defense and size.
Yeah, I don't think I'm interested in DeJounte Murray at all. I'm not interested in Zach LaVine at all.
Certainly not at that price for LaVine, man. That's so much.
Yeah. The hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week comes from Spo Babby. Mike, if the Sixers ever win a championship, I'm going to believe that it's in part because you're doing exactly what needed to be done, whatever that may be. Thanks for doing your part.
Thank you. Talked to John about last week about the just the superstitions and the, like, are we a part of it and all that stuff.
Oh, got it.
I should talk about. I've been sitting on this ref story for a few weeks, and I was waiting for a podcast that you're on to share.
Sure.
Okay, I play basketball. I coach basketball.
Oh wait,
wrong every time.
Sorry.
I play like this.
Every time
I
the
play
pod.
like that. When I play, I'm pretty intense.
Mike playing basketball.
I'm in my prime. Honestly,
Sign me. Okay. You may remember, long listeners of the podcast over the last couple of months will remember the referee in my game who, after calling a phantom foul on me, that then the other team made the free throw, he then said, "Ball don't lie."
Oh, yes.
To me.
Yes.
As a ref,
Uh-huh.
said that.
Uh-huh.
Pretty disgusting behavior from a grown-up. Same ref. We're in this game. We're two of the better teams in this division, and they're calling so many more fouls on us. One of our best players, probably our best player, fouls out like 3 minutes into the second half on just a bullshit call, and he's talking a ton of shit and pissed off and all that stuff. The other ref is cool. She was very nice, and she was like, the other guy's sensitive, just like don't push him. Like, he makes bad calls. I can't overrule him. Blah blah blah. Which is, I like that. I like inter-ref strife, which is nice.
Right.
So then I get my fourth early on a bad foul on my part. I reached. I shouldn't have reached. It was lazy, and I have to sit for a while to make sure I don't pick up my fifth. I come back in. It's like a 6-point game. We're down. I drive. I get hit on the arm. They don't call it. As I'm going back down the other end, I truly, without saying any words at all, Spike, without even looking at the man, I do this just to indicate that I got hit on the arm.
Oh, boy.
Didn't say anything, wasn't looking at him, was getting back on defense, was gesturing at my wrist area where I got hit. Teed up.
Yes.
And ejected from the game because that was my fifth foul.
Oh, wow.
And I lost it, and Alyssa lost it. She was on the she was in the stands and absolutely losing her mind, and was basically daring the ref to throw her out, which would have been sick. What I didn't know was that other players on my team were talking shit to the ref moments before I did that, and so they basically brought him to the edge, and then me doing that, he just wanted to fucking tee somebody up and send somebody out. So it was a little bit on them, and I took the fall for it, but. Same ball don't lie ref ejecting me from the game. We have no more subs. We end up losing the game. I hate that guy, and he hates me 100%. It is a two-way street of hatred, and I just think refs in general bad guys, bad people, bad overall. Are there some good ones? I'm sure there's some good ones, but 97%. Disgusting.
I'd have teed you up.
Sorry excuse for a human being.
I don't need you to show me your arm where you got hit. If I saw a foul, I would have called the foul.
Call the fucking
boy.
foul. And then in Alyssa's game, I'm leaving this to coach Alyssa's game after this. But there was a
I coach
again.
basketball.
Sorry.
Los Angeles.
Coach Mike.
Coach Mike. When she does this, do that. I ran a 1-2-1 zone. Coach my ass off.
There was a time. It was a couple minutes in the second half of a game, and I turned and they were already they'd shot so many foul shots, they got to the line, all this stuff. I turned to the scorer's table and I was like, have they called one foul on the other team? And the scorer looks at the sheet and then looks up at me and shakes his head no.
Wow.
Like 23 minutes into the game or something like that. And we had like 13 fouls or something like that. It was disgusting. And I am beginning to think that my hatred for all refs is working against me.
Yeah, and you're talking about it on I know you don't think much of this podcast, but lots of people do listen to it.
You think refs are listening to this podcast?
Thousands and thousands of people listen to
the
refs?
Podcast.
Well, some of them might be refs.
If you're a ref and you listen to this podcast, find another career.
Oh, no.
There's so many more better things you can do with your life.
This is like Kelly Oubre calling everyone a bitch.
See the light. Yeah. And you made a t-shirt about it.
Yeah. And then he never got another call.
That's true. But the last game I played, I was like, I'm not going to say anything to the refs. And I didn't. And we won. And then I talked to the scorer after the game and I was like, see, I didn't say anything to the refs that time. And he was like, I noticed. Good job. So I'm working on it. I'm trying. I don't want to be complaining all the time, but they are bad people. I do hate them.
Oh, there you go. 833 Lickface.
Hey, Spike and Mike, Chris from South Jersey. Just listened to the podcast where Spike's away, and I think one thing we're not talking about, and I want to get your opinion on, is how much Harden hating Morey is going to affect Paul George coming here, and you know what he may say to Paul, and the impression he may make. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
I think it's a fair thing to bring up, but I don't think that like the GM matters that much to players when they decide to sign places. I think it's the players on the team. I think it's the city location that it's in, the coach,
the money.
If there are players that they want to play with, and the money, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think that Daryl will necessarily prohibit Paul from coming here. If he says here's a 4-year max, I think he'll go like, okay.
We've had this question before, but curious what you think now. This comes from P.F. Rubin. Hey, Spike and Mike. Sixers can get outbid for Bridges, except for one thing they can do. Ricky counts to the fourth, B-ball Paul, and draft picks for Mikal Bridges and Ben Simmons. That's right. The Sixers could eat that contract and still come in $3 million below the $141 million cap. Added bonus, if you fill out the roster with 1-year contracts, the following summer, the Sixers would have $25 million in cap space after Ben Simmons' contract goes away. Brooklyn gets a clean reset, picks plus 2 young players. Bridges is already 28 anyway. Ultimate irony, 2 of the biggest process mistakes in one deal. What do you think?
Wow.
They can't do it. They can't waste $40 million on Ben Simmons this season.
Can't waste it.
Yeah.
Can't waste it. And just the idea that you can get any promises or any medical that says he's going to do this or that. Like, you just can't trust any of that. So
it's a waste. Yeah.
If he was guaranteed to be healthy, if you had like a genie that you could say this guy's definitely going to be healthy and he'll play 70 games a season, then you could think about it. But the risk of all of it together is just like, that's so much money. That's so much money to give away when he's so unlikely to play.
It would be hilarious podcast.
Sure, yeah, I get that.
833 Lickface. One more.
Oh, God, the Knicks. Just the most annoying stuff I have ever seen. They lost in the second round. What are we doing? They're the most divorced man who's ever lived. Their coach, who, by the way, been single his whole life, irrelevant to the equation, just is over there playing 7 guys for 47 minutes a night. And, yeah, they broke down. They got injured. Oh, the Knicks were so injured. They were injured because of their strategy that only worked for one round. And then they have the audacity to clap everybody off the court to a standing ovation like they just came back from war. And then everybody talks about them like some plucky upstart team. They were out in the second round. What are we doing? What is happening? This is the loseriest thing I've ever seen.
Now, did you watch Game 7?
Yeah.
Loved it. The last 5 minutes of the game, as the Pacers.
I love him. I love Halliburton, dude.
I actually do think they're a fraudulent team, but in general.
I would love to be a fraudulent team that makes the conference finals.
For sure. 100%. But the broadcast, including Doris Burke, your buddy JJ, Mike Breen, spending the last 5 minutes of a game talking about how the 2-seeded Knicks in Market 1
it's a joke.
Were such a heroic story instead of talking about the fact that the fucking Pacers are in the conference finals, which is stunning.
And
to
are up 5 in Boston with 1:43 to go.
Oh, my God. And I'm sure TJ fucking is doing great.
TJ 12-4-3.
Yeah.
Siakam playing his ass off. Miles Turner turning into a really reliable player. Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous. I mean,
it was obnoxious.
It's like doing market stuff, and yeah, they are a fun team to root for. A bunch of like guys that play their ass off, like for sure. But I mean, it's New York. Like, if you want to be scrappy, like
go to Memphis.
Root for Memphis. Yeah, root for Charlotte.
Yeah. All right, that's it. We'll be back this weekend unless something crazy happens. Go Phils. Phils in first place.
Go Phils, go Pacers.
Did the Braves win tonight? There were 5 up going into tonight.
All right, I got to roll. I got to coach.
Okay.
Again?
With TTP.
Yeah, you know Lakeface.